Hey, how's it going? Welcome to another video. I'm filming this right now on Christmas Eve. So if this comes out on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, I'm not really sure, or maybe even after. Hope you're having a great Christmas and or happy holiday. And this video is my top 10 favorite reads of the year. These are in no specific order. I just picked them from the stack, or some are audiobooks that I plan to hopefully show the cover art for, but most of them are like physical books. So I'm just gonna get started right off with one of the top 10, and it is In the Mouth of Madness. I am a big fan of this movie. I love John Carpenter. I love almost anything John Carpenter does. So when I heard that there was a movie novelization about this, I waited and waited and waited for this to be released, and the day that it came out, I bought it. I might have actually pre-ordered this. So I read this, and I absolutely love it. If you enjoy the movie, you need to read the book. Moving right along, we have my first Richard Lehman book. I've never read Richard Lehman before. I've heard his writing style is a very acquired taste. And again, I've been hearing a lot about him, but I've never read him until I read One Rainy Night. By Richard Lehman. I read this earlier in the year. I want to say about a midway through the year. This is essentially about a small town that just gets rained on by this black oily rain, and it essentially turns them into just like psychopaths. If the rain touches their skin, they immediately just like go into a bloodlust, and they just get super duper crazy, and they do anything from hijacking cars to killing people to breaking into houses and even worse things. So it was, to me, sometimes it felt long-winded, the chapters did, but the pace of that book still just kept ramping up and ramping up, and it was a pretty fun ride for the most part. And actually, up next is another first that I've read, and it is Robert McCammon Boy's Life. I have never read Robert McCammon before. I've heard really good things, especially about this one. I watch a lot of Slime and Slashers who says that this is a really good book. I'm going to show the step back art, which is essentially just the same thing. But this is like, if I remember it right, because I read this super early in the year, it's about a kid that gets a bicycle, and it's essentially just like this one summer that surrounds this kid, but it's not really a horror book. I wouldn't really know what to classify this as. I mean, it has horror elements for sure, but I read this, and this is actually, even though it's not really a horror book, this book gave me nightmares, because there's certain things that happen to dogs in this book. Like, I'm a animal lover, and there's certain things that happen to dogs in this book that legitimately gave me nightmares. I can't really explain this, but one of the opening quotes, I'm gonna try to find it, and that kind of just like sums it up. It's a small poem I think Robert McCammon wrote just to give you a vibe of the book. And if I butcher this reading, I'm sorry. I'm not really one to read out loud a lot. But it says, we ran like young wild furies, where angels feared the tread. The woods were dark and deep, before us demons fled. We checked Coke bottle bottoms to see how far was far. Our worlds of magic wonder were never reached by car. We loved our dogs like brothers, our bikes like rocket ships. We were going to the stars, to Mars, we'd make round trips. We swung on vines like Tarzan and flashed Zorro's keen blade. We were James Bond in his Aston. We were Hercules unchained. We looked upon the future, and we saw a distant land where our folks were always ageless and time was shifting sand. We filled up with living, with grains, scab knees, and noise. In glass I see an older man, but this book's for the boys. Just tell me you don't read that and just want to pick this up right away. This is such a great book. If you think of, if you want to pick up a book of just magic and wonder and just want to get old vibes of your childhood again, definitely recommend this. Moving right along, we also have Cold Front by Barry Hemmon, and this is a reprint from Savage Harvest, aka Fathom Press. I read this recently, actually, and I really enjoyed it. It's just about these three drunk guys who go and essentially accidentally murder their boss at work, and they try to escape outside of town trying to hide the body, and they get lost. They fall asleep and they wake up and there's just snow everywhere, and they happen upon this cabin where inside they find a woman who seems very standoffish, and she might be more than what she seems. That's all I'm gonna say about this. But as I just kept reading through this, it just kept stacking questions upon questions upon questions, and I'm just like, what's gonna happen next? And finally, when everything felt like it keeps building and building, and it reaches almost a boiling point, you finally just get all of the answers just smashed in your face, essentially. It was really fun. Very mysterious book, but I would definitely recommend this if you're trying to get like into themed reading or just really want a book that makes you feel cold. This definitely will do that. So definitely a fun book. And moving right along from that, I have, I think, the only hardback in this whole thing that I read this year. I've had it for a minute, and I've really enjoyed it. So I have a brother, and every time, I'm a twin, so every time there is a twin story, I always try to, especially horror, I try to read it just because. And so I bought this a while ago, and it is Basket Case by Armando Munoz. This is essentially about two twins that were conjoined, and they were forcefully separated against their will, and one is like a mass of flesh, claws, and teeth, essentially, and the other one is actually a good-looking guy, and he carries around his separated half in a basket. And they go to exact their revenge on the doctors who separated them. It sounds like a slasher, and it is, kind of, sort of, but there's also so many wild, crazy, cuckoo scenes in here. It's dark, it's funny, it's got so much heart, and this is a book I cannot recommend enough. If you could find this, I would recommend picking it up. I've never read a book so fast in my life. Every chance I had, I picked this book up and I read it. And it's just a really, really fun read. Again, I cannot recommend this book enough. This is probably, if not my favorite read, definitely like in top 3. So really, really good, fun, entertaining read. Such a good time. After that, we have a book I've actually read recently, even more recent than Cold Front, because Cold Front I read 1 or 2 books ago, and this I just got done with probably about a week or so ago, and this is Carnivore. This is essentially about a research team, quote unquote, going to the Antarctic, and they find a perfectly preserved dinosaur egg in an iceberg, I guess, or just like in ice. They get it and they take it to their lab, and the T-Rex hatches, and after it hatches, it grows at a very accelerated rate, and hilarity ensues. Essentially, what you think this book will be like, it is. It reads like a B movie. about a T-Rex just eating scientists, people, explorers, limb from limb. This is one of the most fun books I've ever read. It is gory. It is cheesy. It's everything you want in a B movie horror about a dinosaur in the Antarctic essentially just trying to eat, and crazy people trying to stay alive. It's such a good read, such a fun read. I loved the characters. It's just the amount of cheese that I like. Would 100% recommend this. And last but certainly not least of the physical books, I have a book that everyone told me is really good. I'm in a paperback group on Facebook, and every time someone uploads a picture of this book cover, A, it's a really dope cover, and B, I haven't heard a bad thing about it. So I decided to read it, and about halfway through the book, it's in a series. I got 6 or 7 more books in said series, and I can't wait to read them. I'm probably going to try to start book 2 in the series next year. But yeah, without further ado, it is Necroscope. I got this book, I want to say I read this book in January, and this is such a good, thoughtful, and crazy book is the best way I can describe it. The main character's name is Harry, and he talks with the dead, but they also can possess him, I think, to essentially give him their powers. Like, there's this situation in the book where he has to fight, and a ghost possesses him to have him fight, and it's all willingly. So, but he can talk to the dead. He can have conversations. His mom is dead in the book, and he actually goes to her gravesite and talks to her. And there's vampires involved, and it's just about another guy who is, I think, ex KGB, or he is KGB. I read this many months ago. I'm sorry. I'm trying to recall everything, but he has special powers to where he can essentially just rip apart dead people. At least I think they have to be dead, but he's a necromancer essentially. He can rip apart dead people, and he smells their insides, or he just rubs their insides all over them, and he gets their last memory. I think it could be 2 days before their death or something along those lines. Again, I'm trying to recall everything, but there's espionage. The climax to this is insane. It was such a fun read, and again, thoughtful. And I know Brian Lumley died this year sometime, but again, I really enjoyed this book. I think I gave it 5 stars. I think almost all of these are 5 stars for me. If not 5 stars, then 4 for sure. But yeah, Necroscope. Then on to, I think, the last 2 or 3 books, because I don't math well. And yeah, let's just get to the next one. So I'm going to try to see how good my editing powers are. But another book that I read this year, it was another first. I'm reading a lot of firsts this year, I just realized. But another first I read, which was Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire, which should be hopefully there. I read it around Halloween time, so I guess that gave it an extra spooky factor. But I actually listened to the audiobook, and I loved it. The voice actor was fantastic in it. I don't remember their name, but the voice actor was good. The language in the book alone was perfect, and just everything that was happening in the book. The main character's name was Louis, I believe, and I just loved Louis. I watched the movie afterwards. I haven't seen the series yet, so I might try to go on and watch the series. But I watched the movie, and maybe just because it was a 90s movie, but I feel like the book is way better, and I don't think the movie did the book justice. Ironically, I also think Anne Rice wrote the screenplay, but I really, really, really enjoyed this book. Way better than I thought I would. So, yeah, on to the next. And this is definitely one of the newer books in the entry. I mean, there's been some new books, but here's this one. It's actually, I think, the only non-horror book that I have on this list. I could be wrong. But yeah, this right here. This is The Father of Make-Believe by Chandra Eckert and Claudio Sanchez. I'm not going to go into all of the details, but I'll just say it's a book that coincides with a album of the same name, and the album essentially tells the story of the book. And I read it, and there was a few times, because I am deeply involved with these characters, because I've tried to keep up with every book, every comic, etc. I'm just so deeply involved with these characters that there was a few points in the book where I actually almost cried, because there was just so many touching and emotional moments. And it's so well written. The characters are amazing. And yeah, so just a great read. Just a great read. 5 stars, 10 stars, 100 stars, perfect. On to the last book. The last book, again, last, certainly not least. These are not in any order, but I'll put it right there, hopefully, somewhere. And it is Resident Evil: The Umbrella Conspiracy. This is a novelization of the first game. I love the Resident Evil series. Anything about it. I love the spin-offs. I love the main games. The only game of Resident Evil that I do not like are, I think it's called not the Umbrella Chronicles. Anyway, it was like a really, really, really cheap spinoff. Other than that, I love the movies. I love the games. Anything about this franchise, I will ingest. Whether it be Code Veronica, the main series, I have played the original Resident Evil 4 so many times and beaten it so many times. Great game. Anyways, this takes place during the first game, where the STARS team enters the Spencer Mansion, and it's from Jill's point of view, Chris's point of view, and every so often Barry's point of view. And it takes place a few chapters before the mansion. So we see what happens to the start of the game, where the helicopter was attacked, and then the team finds a wreckage, where essentially the book starts a little bit before that. It gives some backgrounds to the characters, and it's such a good read. And again, I think I read this in like October, so the zombies and everything just gave it a little extra punch. And again, I am a very, very big fan of Resident Evil, and it's just a good read. It's a fun read. I actually read another one that was Resident Evil 3, A Nemesis, an equally fun one, but if I had to choose between those two, I went with the first one. So yeah, that was my top 10 books of the year. I think it was a really good year for me. Hopefully I have a really good year next year, because I've got a ton more books to read, and I'm trying to also try new things. So I'm gonna try to maybe veer off into sci-fi, which you probably saw with my other video, or maybe even gothic. I have one Gothic book so far that I kind of want to try to read. So yeah, just mix it up a little bit because I can probably get tired of reading horror after horror after horror. So anything I should try to read from science fiction and or a Gothic, let me know in the comments. So yeah, thanks for watching. But till next time, I've got reading to do and other stuff. See ya.